13 of those. Now, of course, I know that you got studying time, you got all that other stuff. Well, here's the thing, is we're going to do studying time here in a second, but the first thing is that one of the most important things that is really not something that you could really, move around, and that's phone time. Study time, I was a student, I used to study at like 10 o'clock at night, that's fine. But you can't really call people at 10 o'clock at night, if you know what I mean. So here's what I'm going to recommend, is I'm going to recommend that we do phone time every single, at the team meetings. And so what time do you usually wake up to go to school?
I usually wake up at like 7:15.
7:15? Okay. All right, so you're pretty much at school like early in the morning, is that right? So if you want to do 13 demos per week, which by the way, I would say is pretty average, like a pretty good goal for like somebody who has the amount of credit hours that you're taking. So if you want to do 13 demos per week, here's the phone times I would suggest. I'm writing in pencil right now so you can erase them, but I'm just going to put them in because this is what I would recommend if I were you. So I would do phone time on Tuesday night from 7:30 to 9. And, I might study after that. I might go have fun if I, did something, if I was able to study before that and, get everything figured out. On Thursday night, I would totally recommend phone time. Do you remember how I talked about how Thursday nights are so important?
Yeah, you see a whole lot of people there.
Yeah, and also, you have the rest of you. This is going to be your biggest time to do demos,
Weekend, yeah.
Totally, for sure. So I would totally make sure that you come to that phone gym for sure. Saturday morning, Eric, you've been doing such a great job. I would actually like to invite you to the Rising Star meeting, and that's from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. This is not an obligation, it's an invitation, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it in your schedule, though, just so you don't forget about it. And after that, we're going to be doing phone time as well. Saturday morning's a great time to do phone time. Why is that?
People are home.
Yeah, totally. Everybody's home. Like my mom used to, drive the vacuum into my door, every Saturday morning and try to get me woken up. And then Sunday night, for sure, let's do some phone time there as well. So, I would definitely, I can guarantee that if you did phone time every single one of these times, there's no way that you could get anything less than 13 minutes. So, how do you feel about that?
That was good. I think you do that.
So there's a little hesitation in your voice, but that's cool. That's probably because you haven't done that before. But as far as studying time goes, what I would recommend, and this is something that you can figure out on your own. We can discuss it right now. But if you want to be more of what we call a weekend warrior, this is for people who just totally pack up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you could save all this time to do study. And just make sure that you totally hit the books during the week. Or you could be like, something that some of my representatives do, is they do block off blocks of study time every single day, but are still able to do demos around it. So what do you think is more like your style?
I like the blocks of study time and doing demos throughout.
Like consistently? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes I feel like I got rusty if I waited to the end of the week, so I totally understand. All right, well, how about you go ahead and block off what times you think would be best for study time around the week? Okay, fantastic. All right, well, hey, you can PDI me right before you do your study time. I'll call in for PDI, and I'll be able to help you out. So let's go ahead and let's really shoot for these couple demos. And I'll tell you what, if you do 13 appointments, that means every single week, by the end of the campaign, you're gonna be at 14,000 because you've already sold 4,000.
Great.
Yeah, so you're gonna hit 4 promotions in just one semester.
Wow. I can't wait to do it.
How cool will that be? I mean, like when you are able to come home at the end of the semester or right to the Career Center or write on your resume, yeah, I was able to, hit 4 promotions, in one semester while taking 15 credit hours worth of class and being invited to a management training. I mean, you're going to be like, yeah, I know. I'll definitely be pretty cool. But I'll also let you know, Eric, that if we sell, $600 every single week, you're going to be on the newsletter every single week. I don't know if you remember, but over the weekend, if you sell over $500, you get on the newsletter to become a weekend warrior. And so, I mean, I'm pretty positive that if you do 13 appointments and keep doing what you're doing, and after we focus on the stuff that that we're going to work on today, your average order, your closing percentage are going to go where?
Go up.
Yeah, so if you continue to do 13 appointments, you're not going to just sell, what do we figure out? $600 every single week. You're going to start selling like $1,000, $2,000. So when we're doing like the countdowns, you're going to be able to compete with Nick Matlock. How awesome will that be? Be like, what up in your face? It'll be awesome. So, yeah, definitely. So anyway, well, let's go ahead and talk about let's talk about your closing and your your average order. So, all right. So that's pretty much basically it. So, Q&A. Any questions?
How do you handle it? Cool. Well, guys, the purpose of this is going to be a little different than the other ones you've heard so far. The other ones you've heard have been more of a role play and really getting a chance to listen in kind of on a live PC. This is going to be a little different. This is setting up a program where you are developing a mentor program at your team meetings where your mentors are kind of doing mini scheduled PCs with the other representatives on your team at a team meeting. So what you're doing is you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. Let me ask you this. What is the goal of a scheduling PC? Get more demos, create structure in somebody's schedule, go over their goals, and create expectations, right? So those would be that's the goal of a scheduled PC, right, that Patty went over earlier. What's the goal of a team meeting? Well, in my mind, some of the things would be recognition. Somebody sees success on the team. They see somebody else and say, hey, if they can do it, I can do it, right? Make connections on the team, right? So build relationships and also build confidence. So if those are the goals of a scheduling PC and then those are the goals of a team meeting, how can you combine the two and still be able to kind of kill two birds with one stone and also not lose any effectiveness with either of those two events, right? So what's the goal of a team meeting PC workshop, which is what this is, as I said, kind of combine both concepts into one. Here's what this does. Here's why I like it. It builds leaders on your team very quickly. You combine this with what Drew's talk a little bit later on is going to be, which is how to get assistant managers very early on within your first couple seminars. You combine this with that, and in my mind, that's how you have the equation of bringing 25 quote unquote mentor representatives to your first division meeting of the summer, right? Imagine having 25 people who have already run a PC, at your first division meeting of the summer. How powerful is that, right? So really what this is, who are the mentors? Well, somebody who's on Rising Star, somebody who is a key staff member, an FSM, or an assistant manager, right? Those are your mentors. And so what I did is, at the team meeting, I would list all the people who are at the meeting, I would split them up, right? And I would say, okay, here are my mentors, here are my new representatives, either in their fast start contest, or somebody who's after their fast start but just hasn't caught on yet, or somebody who's been around for a while and still hasn't really caught on yet, right? So those would be the representatives, and then the mentors would be people who are starting to click, right? Or somebody who's obviously more established on the team. So what this does is it builds leaders on your team, and it gives your mentors a taste of management, right, at a very young vector age, right? In other words, somebody has maybe got promoted to Rising Star, in their first Monday or their first Wednesday, and that the next week I have them be one of my mentors at the team meeting. So maybe at your first, maybe at your Rising Star meetings, you talk about those 6 things that Patty talked about earlier. What she looks for in a Rising Star member, and then you hand them this sheet and you say, okay, I want you to read this over a couple times because at the next team meeting, I'm going to pair a new rep up with you, and I want you to coach them. All right? So what does that do? Well, it creates buy-in. It creates better team meeting attendance. Your mentor is going to get off to a good, solid start to the week because if they're the one who's going to be a mentor, they definitely want to make sure they're doing well for the week so far, right? So you guys know 80-20 rule. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your team, right? So if that's the case, really the goal of this is not just to help your new reps, it's to take your mentors to a leadership level. And so that's really the goal. So the mentors work harder that week because they don't want to let the new rep beat them, or they want to look lame compared to the people who they're coaching. And John Berghoff talked about human needs, right? He talked about significance, right, and contribution. And so what this does is, you can imagine if you're a mentor, right, and it's almost like a big brother, big sister program, right? And so if you're a mentor and you just sat down with somebody and coached them on their week, how do you think they go home feeling? As a mentor, they feel pretty good. By the way, when they call in for PDI the rest of the week, not only do they tell you what's going on with them, what's one of the first things they always ask? How's Susie doing? Because they just sat down with them the other day. And now they have a vested interest in how that new representative is doing because it looks better for them as the mentor if that new rep is doing great. So what happens is you're creating alliances on the team, you're creating buy-in, you're creating a group of people who are excited about how the rest of the team is doing, not just themselves. And that's a great segue into management training, right? So, by the way, Susie goes out and hits her first promotion, sells her first set, sells her first homemaker, has her first grand day. What's the first thing I do? I go look at the sheets, right? And I say, who was Susie's mentor for last week's team meeting, right? And I go shoot, let's say John, right? First thing I do, text message to John. Hey, awesome job in your coaching session with Susie the other day. She just hit her first promotion. No way that happens if you didn't sit down with her. I feel totally confident sending people your way for some coaching. By the way, what does that do for their confidence? Totally, right? How easy is it for me to invite that person to the next management prep? Right? Totally. So I think that that's huge. So and then they feel even more confident when they run another mentor session, during another week, right? Or if I ask them to come in and help out with PDI, right? They feel confident. Okay, so I just want to go through some of the basics, and then let's